Start wind the live and turn the live off. So we start again. I hope network will be fine.
As we know, we've competed on that song. We've competed on that song. We've got two versions. His one and mine. Mine is better than his. He thinks his is better than mine. And so it's a clash. Really good. It's a clash on the master bass. But it was your invention first of all, and I did a secondary version. With the top singer. With the top singer. There's the fall. There's the one where you get that wrong. Vibrato. Put that on one day, we can have a direct clash. So where we go today, you can be my guide. No, not you. You and your Bell Hotel. I'm having a break. Anti-people going to the Bell Hotel, and here he is with the India shirt on. I went to Goa on a boat. This is an exercise, an anti-social exercise. The India flag. Well, don't forget, we own India. Last time I was speaking about this question. About British. Some guy who wants British went to India. They were. As a bloody lie, checked it afterwards. As you do. When I'm challenging speakers, it's always possible I make a mistake.
No!
It's possible.
Heresy!
It's extremely rare.
Who said
But
that?
it is possible. And therefore, I did do a check. And when I checked, it confirmed I was correct. That the British did not have to prove who they were when they arrived in India, but the Indians had to prove who they were to the British occupiers.
Quite right too.
And here you are. The equivalent of Uncle Tom.
Thank you very much.
India.
My mother's Moroccan and my father's from Cuba, so go fuck
from
yourself.
India. So, from India, a boat person staying in a five-star hotel, pretending to.
I own the hotel.
I noticed that Tommy Robinson has been invited to join a party led by a Pakistani. I noticed that, but that's only on the side.
Bangladeshi.
Because next week, of course, we're about to have the clash of civilization.
Oh, I thought you said the Clash are getting back together.
In about free speech.
Especially if Joe Strummer turns up.
Of September, there is going to be a giant free speech event.
Oh no, there's not.
Organised by
Somebody give him his next ketamine tablet.
Tommy! It's free speech, Tommy. He's going to stand up for free speech. He's invited free speech speakers. There aren't any from Britain, of course. So he's invited many free speech advocates from all around the world. Because we don't have any free speech advocates at Speaker's Corner. And he's got his new mate, Russell Brand, on board.
Is that true? I thought that was a
He's
joke.
got who's the Canadian guy again? Jordan Peterson. I keep trying to learn how to speak, but every time I see I fuck up. Just that same thing.
That's because you're too middle class, Mr. Speaker.
Jordan Peterson isn't.
Well, he's a twat, mostly.
So I'm not a twat.
No, I didn't say that. The two aren't mutually exclusive.
No, that's right, but you did point out one aspect, and then you ignored the other.
He's just a much bigger twat than you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I'm glad to hear that. After decades,
I've got a soft.
that you attended my meeting week in, week out, for 40 years has led you to conclude that I'm not a twat.
No,
I'm glad to hear that. 40 years, this man's been stalking
some
me.
twats are nicer than others, Mr. Speaker. There's a reason for that.
Children
It's called
fighting
quality
by you.
control.
Leave them alone.
Can't we just put you up and shoot you?
It's live. It's live on the internet now. You are live.
Best to be honest.
Wow.
You can't ask anybody questions dressed like that.
I said they allow private companies to operate, but they control private companies.
I would say to you, because through fascism, and you know, and I can see you as being meek where you say it.
He's never been accused of being meek.
Fascism is where you've got the big stick in the middle, the big stick in the middle, surrounded by the little sticks, with the axe represents the weapon, and it's all tied together, controlled by. That is exact. So what I'm actually saying to you, and I've said it to you guys outside. I've said it to you guys outside.
Fascist!
In October 2013.
Stone him! Was anybody listening? Couldn't you have just messaged him?
Is it you have one opinion, I have another opinion, discuss. I think China is the most important country in the world at the moment.
Is there a coincidence that you're half Chinese?
The fate of humanity will be decided in China. That's my opinion. So for many years, I focused on that question. I started studying China in 1989. I went to China in 1989 during the protests that were taking place there. I worked in China shortly after that. I studied Chinese political economy.
Are you a Chinese communist?
If I was in China, I wouldn't be a member of the
Are you
Communist
now,
Party.
or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party
No,
of
but I
China?
have written for the Chinese press for a period of 11 years. I was a journalist.
So you are indeed a red.
Some people said I'm an agent of the Chinese. I was never an agent of the Chinese. They never told me what I
They
should
never
say.
paid enough.
Sometimes censored parts of what I wrote. Although I should point out that I was in a Marxist group in Britain which claimed to be in favour of socialist Marxist ideas, and they censored me more than the Chinese censored me. So that was the international.
That will teach you, trusting those communist bastards.
They censored me more about China than the Chinese censored me about China. In fact, the Chinese used to ask me to write articles about Xi Jinping. Well, Karl Marx argued, going back to Karl Marx,
Can't we discuss Groucho?
that the fate of humanity will be determined by the fate of the working class. The working classes, when Marx was writing and living in London, the largest conurbation and constellation of the working class was in England. There were something 2.8 million workers in England around 1848 or 49 when Marx first moved to England.
And he should know he was there.
There are now 800 million workers in China. Why the working class? Because the working class organise and produce the wealth of the world. That is why the working class. Marx argued that the class which will run society in future will be that class which administers and controls production in a democratic form of the produce of the world. The dominant working class in the entire planet is based in China. The working classes of Europe and the United States of America have declined proportionately as the working class of China have increased. There is no greater working class, there is no better producing working class, there is no more sophisticated working class than those of China today. And therefore, if the argument is correct, that the fate of humanity is determined by the conflict between social classes, then China has in its hands the potential to transform the entire world. The reason why China has become the pole of attraction for people in Southeast Asia is precisely because they have shown that independent of Europe and America, which dominated and colonized India, Africa, South America, and prevented the development of those countries and those continents of the world, China, when it engaged with those countries that we used to call the third world, or that are called, or were called colonies, or were called post-colonial regimes. China, when it engages with those countries, it facilitates their development, whereas Britain, France, Italy, Germany, America always hindered the development of those countries.
Yes.
China facilitates the development of Africa. China facilitates the development of South America. They give them resources. They don't just go there. When the Americans, the French, the British go to Africa, say they used to go to the Congo. They made a deal with the ruler of the Congo called Mobutu. They got the copper from the Congo in exchange for money. The money that went to the Congo went to Mobutu's pocket. And then he took that money, bought himself a house in Switzerland, in France, in Italy, in Germany, and so on, and transferred the money he got from the copper from the Congo to Swiss bank accounts. And in that way, nothing was left in the Congo from the use of copper. So it was with coltan, so it was with lithium, so it was with all the rare earth metals extracted to make your mobile phone function, to make your computer function. They are extracted from the Congo, from Central Africa, from East Africa. They're extracted from those regions and transported to Western corporations to accumulate cash for the owners of those corporations. And nothing is left by the Western corporations in the countries that they took the resources from. That is why India, Africa, and South America, and Southeast Asia remain undeveloped. You go to India, I went in 2015, okay, it's 10 years ago, but I bet it's not much. I went to India in 2015, landing in New Delhi. You get out the airport in New Delhi, I got a taxi at the airport, there's a smart road. It goes 500 metres. When you go past 500 metres, it turns to dust. And all around you is shanty towns. For miles and miles and miles, shanty towns. Millions and millions of people living in shanty towns on the edge of the city. Their votes are secured by politicians who gladly purchase their votes in exchange for a few facilities they offer to the people in exchange for the vote. It's barely any different. I put to you, it's barely any different in India today. When did you last go? When did you last go? And how's it different?
More neon signs.
You compare the development. You compare the development in 1989, India and China, to today, India and China. China is a modern, far more, everyone who's gone, everyone has met in recent years, who's gone to China, comes to me and says, no matter what their politics, they say to me, it's absolutely astounding, the way China is. I didn't expect it to be anything like that. It's nothing like they say. Everybody I have met who's honestly reported what it's like in China has said the same thing. So I ask you to do the same thing. Go onto the internet and look up. Not just the Steve Bannon and Epoch Times reports about China, which all claim that China is run. I saw Jordan Peterson, to go back to him, I saw a little video of him the other day. He says, China's got 780 million cameras watching what everyone does, everywhere you go, everything you do. It's not true. It's not true.
They've got 790 million
There
cameras.
is no social credit system in China. There is no such thing. They tried in some locations to test out a social credit system. And in fact, while they're rolling out facial recognition in Britain, it has now been prohibited in China. from using facial recognition in the way they were using before. The social credit system in China is a system for monitoring the activities of private corporations. It is not a system for monitoring the general population. Yes, private corporations, because everybody knows that private corporations get up to malicious activity. If you don't realise that Palantir, the Google, Facebook are monitoring you, surveying you, watching you, controlling you. If you don't realise that they are controlling you, not the Chinese state, not the Chinese government. The British and American corporations are watching you on a minute-by-minute basis. We are under a more totalitarian system of surveillance in Europe and America today than China is and that the Soviet Union ever was.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. I need you for defence. In case he lashes out. I'm shot.
When I was in another international market, I'm going to explain that. I'm not talking about institutions, all institutions. I'm talking about private sector, large scale corporations. The difference between capitalism and China is that under capitalism, the large corporations control the society. They control the everyday life of the people. We all think we live in a democracy, but as soon as you go to work, you live under a totalitarian dictatorship. You work in democracy.
We're not talking about
You do the tasks that you are told to by a supervisor who controls your activity all day long. And your means of living is a totalitarian dictatorship. And then they tell you, oh, but when you finish work, you're free. But of course, on the mobile phone, on your computer, on your tracking everything you're doing, they're also watching what you do as a consumer in the society. And now, even if you've got an opinion on Palestine and you oppose the slaughter of children by Israel in the most barbaric slaughter since the Second World War, since the Holocaust, if you oppose that, you get arrested for holding a piece of paper. Holding a piece of paper.
He was arrested recently.
He was arrested yesterday. Probably why he's not here today. As were some 850 people yesterday. I saw people there being arrested who were 80 and older years of age, dragged by the police. There was a guy who fell on the floor. I think he broke his leg, and the police were barging up. I was lucky to be able to help stopping this person being stamped on and killed yesterday. That's how mad the situation is in Britain. The police are acting as agents of, as you say, Mossad. Mossad. That's what the police are acting on behalf of. Mossad. That's who they act on behalf of. And the entire establishment in Britain and in the United States, including Donald Trump, the man who stood for free speech, as we are told, and Tommy Robinson, who says he's in favour of free speech, we are told, and Nigel Farage, who says he's in favour of free speech. They all support the Holocaust taking place now against the Palestinian people. If you imagine that what they're doing against the Palestinians is not preparation for what they'll do against you, you'll live in a cuckoo land. Why do you think they're developing all these technologies? The drones, the surveillance, the weapon of destruction. They are all mechanisms for controlling the entire world's population into the future. That's what Palestine is a testing ground of. What they're prepared to do to you, to the people here, to the goose that lays the golden egg while you're living under a totalitarian regime while you go to work. And then they also, oh, you should get a fucking job and go to work. You should contribute by going and getting a job. In other words, you should become a tool of a totalitarian dictatorship over the people. That's what they're saying to you. That's the purpose in life. So that one day, maybe, if you're lucky, when you shat on a load of other people and climb up the hierarchy to the third tier level of control and you're a supervisor at McDonald's or equivalent, so that you can then turn around and say, I'm going to buy a house and I'm going to pay a mortgage for 30 years so that I can have something to give my children in 30 years' time. And then when you get close to the 30 years, they rob you of that as well. That's the con they put on people, decade after decade after decade. The reason why I am hopeful about China is because the Chinese, contrary to what you say, contrary to what he said, the Chinese do not take shit. They don't take shit. When people tell them do this, do that at work, they say, fuck you. Fuck you, we're not going to do it. Or they organise it.
Is that true,
They're
Alan?
not just slaves.
You say it like that, Alan?
What they make out. They're not simply slaves. They begin to organise and combine together. And when they do so, they will shake the entire world.
I agree with
زول الكلام اللي بيقولوا في الصين ده كله حقيقي.
حقيقة هاي الأصلي
هاي الصين افضل من اوروبا.
شديد هاي.
اوروبا ما في حاجه، لا تقدر تشتري بيت، لا تقدر تشتغل وتوفر.
الصين الحكومة بتبني بيوت وتوزعها للمساكين.
هنا ما في كلام ده.
ما في كلام ده. بنوا ملايين من البيوت.
اها.
وسكنوا ناس وقوموا ناس.
بعدين الصين سكانها كم مليار وحاجه. هسه بريطانيا هنا ما لها الا 60 مليون. يمكن في مشكله في البيت. عشان تلقى لك بيت هنا برنامج يا راجل.
عمرك كله تشتغل فيه وفي النهايه قال لك يقلعوك بعد 30 سنه.
بعدين المورد ده المورد ده
يجيبوا لك سبب كده يشيلوا منك.
فايده شنو؟ انا ما اشتري الزاد.
اشتري بيت 30 سنه عشان ادفع عليه بيت. يا اخي احنا البيت في افريقيا ده ما في سنه واحده بنبنيه.
ايوه يديك العافيه.
احسن تكون عايش فيه ذاته.
انا عندي صاحبي اشترى بيت في اوغندا. المهم بعد ما نكفي الله يوريك. في حته بقول له بيالي. اشترى قطعه عمل مزرعه يعني ما حصل معه 50,000. عمل الكلام ده كله.
انا يا دوب جاي من اوغندا.
لكن هنا
عملوا استثمار.
هنا ده عشان تشتري بيت بقول الزول هذا لا يقدر لك 100,000 باوند ما فوق.
عشان تخش كمان مورجج. لكن عشان تشتري اقل بيت في لندن 1 بيدروم فلات 300,000.
ده انا اللي مثل
بالمرتبات الموجوده دي.
رواتب دي ضعيفه.
بالغلا الموجوده دي.
رواتب ضعيفه جدا. واذا ده ما زول من افريقيا قام يتصل لك.
بلدي ميته كل يوم ماشي.
والله اوروبا دي يقول لك ما في اختلاف بين الدول. واحد عنده مرتبات 1,500 2000 3000 4000 ده زول بيكون طبعا
متعلم جديد.
لكن والله انت ما شاء الله في دول كثيره.
انا بحب اسافر كثير.
لكن اسمع هسه مقارنه بين اوغندا وجنوب السودان افضل وين؟
والله جنوب السودان اخلاقهم كعبه شويه. اوغندا محترمين يا زلمه. السودان شويه اخلاقهم الحروب الكثيره دي اثرت على عقلتهم. عقلتهم شويه الاخر.
والله ما
شويه كده زي الغنديين متمدنين شديد يا زلمه. حضاره كامله. استثمار في جنوب السودان بعمل قروش اكثر لكن ما بتقدر تتحملهم يعني انت من شمال السودان يقول لك يا عربي وهنا وشنو. كان حبشي ده كمان خلاص.
لا دق الجنوب.
ليبيا بس عندها بنات حلوات يعني طوال ولذيذات كده.
لكن ما كمان ما عندهم العقلية بتاعت البيزنس. دي مشكلة. لازم حيجوك ناس من برا طبعا.
In the last 30, 40 years. It's been the most rapid economic development of any country in the history of the world. And I'm in praise of that. But what I believe is that the working classes, like Marx argued, the working classes will eventually become conscious of their condition and will seek to take over the running of society and administer it themselves. If you go on to artificial intelligence, I suggest you try this out. You ask yourself, you go on to AI, on Grok, or on the Gemini, or on Quen, or on DeepSeek, or on ChatGPT. Ask the question, if China wanted to establish, or if people wanted to establish communism in China, how could they use artificial intelligence to facilitate the administration of society according to the concepts developed by Karl Marx? In other words, the direct administration of the people over their society. And you will discover that it is far easier for the people of China to move towards a genuine democratic communist state than it is for America or England or France or Germany. Because the infrastructure to do so is there, and also the belief system. No system can rule simply by claiming it is one thing and doing something else. In Britain, people don't believe in democracy, and therefore they try to exercise their democratic rights. When they are thwarted, they shout out, "We're supposed to be a democracy." In China, people say, when they question the existing leadership of the government, local or national, they turn around and say, "You're supposed to be communist. Why aren't you doing this? You're supposed to be socialist. Why aren't you doing this?" Those are the ways in which those are challenged. When the church, when Christians or Muslims challenge the official interpretation in one country or another, they turn around and say, "You're not really practicing Christianity, or you're not really practicing Islam." So I'm saying the same thing about China and communism. People in China, the masses, the working classes in particular, will raise demands themselves to bring about that change. It may take time, but it'll take a lot less time in China to establish communism than it will in Britain using Jeremy Corbyn and science mechanism. So you say really.
أنا مبارك والله لقيت جيريمي كوربين مبارك جفي اسمه في المظاهرات بتاعت فلسطين هناك.
هاي
يعني تشوفه في السوشيال في الإعلام ولايف فرق زول عادي يعني.
اكثر يا تولى من لايف ولا؟
أنا ما شفت يوم.
انا امبارح كنت لايف هناك.
يلا.
سبحان الله،
أنا
العالم كله كان هناك. العالم كله كان هناك.
يعني حاجة عجيبة.
حاجة عجيبة، ضغط ثقيل آلاف الناس.
لكن في النهاية
كل
البوليس
القوميات وكل الجنسيات وكل الأديان وكل شيء.
البوليس لكن اشتغل شغل اشتغل ناس كتار.
Some things have similar appearances, but are different in context.
لكن أنا والله بتمنى إنه السياسيين بتاع أفريقيا يخلوا السيستم بتاعهم بتاع القبلية والعنصرية يركزوا في تنمية الدول ويكونوا ناس بسيطين. يعني أفريقيا كله حروب شاكي كلام فارغ صحيح.
That's how Nazis and Mussolini administered their economy. So that's the economic structure of fascism in Italy and in Germany. I'm not saying those are the only possible variants of fascism. That's how they operate. Now, in China, public ownership of the decisive levers of the economy is controlled by the Communist Party. The Communist Party is torn between different interest groups, some of whom support their personal enrichment and theft of resources, and some of whom try their best to represent the interests of the people. None of those forces, in my opinion, are fascistic in their orientation or their intention. None of them.
I am by nature, I am
You're happy going, chap, lad. You're happy, lads. You're happy, lads.
Fancy LGBT agenda in schools.
Do me a favour.
You do.
Say, hang on. It seems to me that you do. And I think we're living in a more divided world. Even this country over there, it's so divided. We live in a divided world.
What do you think?
Let him speak. You know what I think about the way we say what you want to say. Say what you want to say.
Shocking. Thinking about hotels. Free hotels.
What's the hotel's got to do with it?
Well, you didn't treat them shocking. They get a free hotel, a free meal. How do we treat them shocking if they get a free hotel and a free meal? A free wine and a free over.
Well, in my view, I'm getting more as I get older. Do you think America will stand aside while China goes in? Right, that was the point you made. No, they're not. And the logical consequence of that is, and I really mean this with my heart, is war. I see war.
Where do you see war? Where do you see war?
I feel war. I feel
You feel it right now, dude. Right now.
now. You did make this point earlier on. I happen to think you're right.
There is no world war.
The tendency in the world is towards war.
No, there's going to be no
The
world
reason
war.
for the tendency towards war is that the United States of America, Europe, they are seeking to maintain their position in the world when automatically their position is declining. China's position is rising, and China's allies are gathering around it in order to be part of that game. And America is being pushed aside. America's Donald Trump coming to power is an illustration of the weakness of America. America is in a weak position economically, and it's trying to use its financial power and its military power to hold on to those elements that kept it in control in the past. 1 minute. And of course, the ultimate conflict in the world, which is where the whole of the First World War came from, the whole of the Second World War came from, the whole of the Cold War came from, is a class conflict. It's a conflict about which social system will rule the world. One ruled by the working classes, and one ruled by the capitalist classes, of which the Zionists are a component of. And the reason why the Zionists and the United States and Zelensky and all their allies are all whipping up the idea of militarization, of massive arms spending, and a massive attempt by the artificial intelligence corporate community in conjunction with the intelligence agencies and the state itself. The reason why they're developing all these instruments is an attempt to overthrow the government of China and thereby do the same thing that happened to the Soviet Union to China. That's the objective of the American policy and European policy today. That's the objective. The objective overthrowing all the classic. Firstly, the attempt to undermine the position of the Communist Party in China so that an internal opposition rises up backed by America, like Steve Bannon, Epoch Times, NTV, with all the you were coming out with this stuff a minute ago.
Yes.
You were saying to me a minute ago, the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs in China are not oppressed. But you think they are. You know they are. You know they are. A lot of people here think China is ruled by a social credit system. It's not. But huge swathes of the population believe it. Lots of people believe, under COVID, everyone was locked up in China by the government under orders from Xi Jinping. In fact, Xi Jinping was opposed to the lockdowns. The lockdowns emerged from a mass movement from below, and a third of the country never had any lockdowns in China. But they don't tell you that. They don't tell you large parts of China never had lockdowns. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you. They didn't force people to take vaccines in China. Huge numbers of the population. 1 minute. Huge numbers of the population in China did not take vaccines. 1 minute. fuck the hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, them boats.
Ah.
30,000 people staying in hotels. What do you think? Who do you
لكن انت
think
اسمعني اصل القرار بتاع لما الشمل الكلام ده حقيقي انا طبعا شفته في السوشيال ميديا.
انا برضه شفت في السوشيال ميديا ما عارف ما بتخيل ليش
One
لازم
is
تلم
they don't
شمدك ما ده
have
جزء
money
من
to go
الغنى.
and stay in hotels themselves. Second is, people aren't coming from abroad in the same numbers they used to stay in hotels either. And British people don't stay in hotels because they go and occupy other people's hotels in Spain, including Tommy Robinson. And the Spanish
Yes, but they
people,
pay for their
the
own
Spanish
hotels,
people,
didn't they?
Before you
They
complain,
pay for those
before you
hotels.
complain, hang on,
British-
before you complain, I'm going to deal directly what you're saying. I can repeat it again because we've had this out before.
Yeah.
British people, including Tommy, go to the Canary Islands, occupy hotels, and drive the hotel workers out of their accommodation. Out of their accommodation. There are thousands of people in Spain and in the Canary Islands sleeping in tents or in ramshackle accommodation who live in that country. They are forced out by British people going and occupying hotels in the Canary Islands. So don't talk shit about how we're paying for it. Who do you think is paying for the state of Pakistan, the state of Somalia, the state of Libya? The British people, by the way, paid to blow up Libya. We blew up Libya. The British government blew up Libya.
The fucking government.
The British taxpayer, he's saying the British taxpayer, he is saying the British taxpayer pays for the hotels. I'm saying the British taxpayer paid to blow up Libya.
انا المحيرني شنو يا الزول ده
Paid to blow up Syria.
تركي ابوه
And the
تركي
remnants-
بس
the
اتولد في
remnants
البلد
of that,
يعني بقى بريطاني اكثر من
the
البريطاني
British taxpayer paid to blow up
ابوه
Afghanistan.
تركي
And the British taxpayer
مولود
is
هنا.
now backing
اصلي
Israel.
مره
So get your priorities.
زي في المانيا الاتراك
بريطانيا
Full of foreign.
ممكن
Well, let's just get the facts right.
حتى في المانيا نفس البرنامج ده الاتراك هناك عاملين فيها المان اكثر من الالمان.
الاتراك فيهم جزء عنصريين عاملين فيها هم اوروبيين
بارك الله يديك العافيه.
Blowing up Syria, blowing up Libya, than they spend on hotels in the whole history of Britain.
On your claim,
More money
I got a
blowing
question.
and they're still blowing them up. We are financing the Israeli government blowing up Palestinians. Now we're financing it.
Question.
Well, they are arguing because they're saying the hotels are the issue.
Yes,
because they have a mobile.
they're not saying it's the
They have
issue.
something
They're not saying it's the
they stay in
issue.
a hotel. That's the argument. That's the argument. And all that is Tommy Robinson. Tommy, getting you to talk shit, getting you to repeat the nonsense that Israel wants you to repeat. Because that's what distracts from the slaughter they're carrying out. That's what the game is. That's what the game is. Throw shit in your face and make you believe nonsense. It's the same. It's the same.
£400 a night at Canary Wharf.
So what? Who's it going to? Who's it going to?
The illegal down.
To the hotel owner. To the hotel owner.
It is to the illegal down. Come here. There's ill dying and starving people
owner.
in this country. There's starving people in this country on the
Tell me
streets.
this.
On the
Tell me
streets.
this. Tell me this.
Help these people first.
Were you protesting? Were you protesting when we bombed Afghanistan? Were you protesting when we bombed Syria? Were you protesting when we bombed Iraq? Were you protesting when we bombed Libya? Were you?
Yes.
Were you?
I'm too young.
You're not too young. How old are you?
In my 30s, but back then,
You're not too young.
look, I've been protesting against
Well, they're good. That's why you're not talking so much shit. Exactly the same way.
All the British people,
Why should
all the
I?
British people could see through TV News. It's what's happening in the hotel. They won't tell them what's happening in Syria. They won't tell them what's happening. So the British
Really?
don't know. They also don't know.
We blew up the
They also
hotels
don't know.
in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Iraq.
The British
We blew them up.
Yes, and I agree with you. The British people don't know the Zionists are capturing this country. Getting back to what he said, World War III was already started. So what do? They target countries feeding China commodities. Around 80% of our trade intelligence on it's gas
those kids have got no money, are starving over, they've lived out in the street. We should be paying for them. We should be paying. You go on the street, they're housing the hotels. During COVID, they found places for these hotels. During COVID, they found places for the people without hope, the English people on the street. Lord, you go look on the streets. You go look on the streets.
No, we are not in England.
So you're housing these illegals while you got all these people on the streets.
This illegal nonsense. You're being sold by the
I'm not saying don't help them, help your own people first. Don't help your own people first.
He has got these
Tell the government to do this.
established the same. Those people aren't wearing masks. That's why you need to stay at home. Those people haven't taken their injection. That's why you need to stay at home. Why don't go to community?
During COVID, they housed all these hotels. During COVID, they housed the hotels.
So therefore,
Why can't they house them
exactly.
now?
That's the
Then
point.
they threw them back
That's the
out.
point.
They threw
That's
them
the
back out on the street.
That's the point.
No, after 6 months, they
therefore,
threw
it's
them
not
back out on the
because
street.
the hotels are full of migrants, the people on the streets. It's because the landlord class exercises more power over politics. That's why. And it's
6
their
months, they
interest
threw them out on the
and concern. Therefore, they couldn't give a shit. They want people to be homeless on the streets. But that encourages those people who've got mortgages to pay them mortgage.
And we need the people. We need
That's
the
the game.
people.
No, you can't.
But you said we treat them bad.
You don't want to hear how World War III already started.
No! Why not? No! Because I said it already.
The future of humanity relies on China.
The future of humanity relies upon the fate of the people of the world taking control over their lives. And taking control over their lives, I believe that the people in China are the best positioned to take control over their society and administer society in a way which aligns with my own philosophy. I think they are the best positioned to take over because they administer the most advanced forms
Still going, look. Still going, look.
Do they have trade unions?
create a livelihood for the people.
Still going. People want
Self-administered.
Do you mean they have good trade unions in China?
I don't mean they have good trade unions. I don't mean they have good trade unions. But potentially they could have good trade unions. The law in China says all workplaces, state and private, the workers have the right to elect the management and control the operational processes in the workplace. Every single workplace in China, that law applies to them. It's not implemented, but it applies. And therefore, if the people exercise their legal right, just the same as in Britain, we've got the right to speak at Speaker's Corner. We've got the right to speak at Speaker's Corner. We have the right to free speech. Most people do not exercise their right to free speech. If they were to exercise their right to free speech, they would discover that the entire state would be mobilised to try and stop them exercising their right to free speech. We have free speech as long as we don't exercise it. As long as it's only a tiny minority.
As long as you don't offend nobody.
In China, when the people decide to exercise their legal rights, just the same as if people in Britain decide to exercise their legal right to free speech, exercise their legal right to go on strike, to demonstrate, protest, then you could make the country ungovernable. The Chinese people, when they do that, the good thing about it is, in my opinion, is that if they realised what legally they're allowed to do in China, you would have a genuine socialist society. They are legally. Well, that's because you're a cynical
Is this true, Alan?
fucker.
Is this true? Is this true, Alan?
All over your face.
It's dissenting.
Whoa!
why he's here.
China,
That's why he's here. There's no freedom of speech.
I tell you what.
Why do you think he's here?
If you go to China and you discuss with ordinary Chinese people their more sophisticated ideas, more sophisticated opinions, not only about China, but also about the West, than people do in general in the West. Is that not free speech?
No.
What is free speech then?
Because in China, the Chinese
Stand on a platform and speak. You mean stand on a platform and speak? You've come from China to London and started speaking. How many people have you seen speaking in all the time of video? How many people have you seen speaking? One.
Thousands.
30?
30.
30? No, speaking.
Thousands.
Same 30 people for 40 years.
Thousands.
40
Millions.
years.
Chinese
These people in Britain do not exercise their right to free speech. They do not exercise, and when they do exercise it, and when they do exercise their right to free speech, holding a piece of paper on Parliament Square, they get arrested. When we exercised our right to free speech at Speaker's Corner during the lockdowns, the police chased us and hounded us out of the park. So the idea is no free speech in China and free speech in England is a lot of bullshit.
I will say this about the Chinese.
Yeah, what you say is true, man. Really true.
There's no money to be made. Whereas actually, free speech, that's a freedom of expression, freedom to think. That's it. Create new society, to break new inventions, new ideas. The Chinese don't seem to have worked.
No new inventions, no new ideas. I'm sorry, I've been following what's
Most
going on.
Chinese people
I've been
say,
following what's going on.
what will we make? What money will we make? I'm not saying the Chinese are.
Is that what they all say? I don't think so.
They don't seem to be suppressing.
Free speech is about exchange ideas. That's the best thing we have.
It's not a big thing like it is here.
How is free speech a big thing here? People are just bullshitting about free speech. They say,
You're speaking now.
go in and shut.
You're speaking now.
One person.
Yes, one person. Yes, we know that. You can tell. You can't even do your shirt up. You can't even do your shirt up. You can't even do your shirt up.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
First Amendment is free speech.
Yeah.
You can't do your shirt up either.
By the Second Amendment. The First Amendment in America is protected by the Second Amendment.
Is it protected? Is it not? It's not protected.
It's like the China this never
People
happened.
just the other day,
Where is
George
China?
Galloway the other day,
Where is-
running a campaign against NATO. It's cut off X.
Where
X
has
for
China
free
ever
speech.
had a First Amendment? It's never had a First Amendment. Free speech, First Amendment. It went
1979.
protected by the Second Amendment. Protected by the
Is it protected by reality is the question. You can have whatever piece of paper you like. We had a democratic constitution in the United States of America since what, 1776. Didn't stop them having slaves.
No, that's because society is a
They had a free speech and democracy in America in the 1950s and 60s. Didn't stop them having a colour bar.
Would China allow its citizens, population, to be armed what they do in America? No! The answer is no.
Well, the fact of the matter is,
And that's my answer, I believe.
it's not an adequate answer. Between 1976, I'm answering your question you just said. Between 1976 and 19... Sorry, 19... I answer you. You talked about the right to bear arms.
The Second Amendment, if they got
Where's the Second Amendment? You said you don't see that in China. Between 1966 and 1976, people's militias were everywhere in China. Everywhere in China. I lived in East Germany. In East Germany, every child used to learn to use a weapon. My ex-girlfriend used to learn how to drive a tank and throw a hand grenade when they're at school.
members of the public allowed to carry arms.
Public.
Yeah, I'm not just talking.
They had factory
America has militia.
They had factory
It has ordinary
militias.
people
They
that
had
can bear
factory
arms.
militias. However, the idea in America is different.
What? So what? What? They can't protect your free speech.
Got the money to buy some weapons, can buy a weapon. That is not a democratic mechanism of controlling weapons.
If you've got enough
All
money,
that
you can have one in your
is
pocket
for
now.
lunatics who can buy an AK-47 to blow a lot of people up. That's got nothing to
Don't you
do.
trust the people?
I don't trust the general population. All of them. Weapons to any time, whatever weapons they want. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Because otherwise, all you
What about all those kids that couldn't use in school?
some of those who blows anything up in school. But they don't listen to that. They work in school. It's perfectly all right.
What about that walk into school to just shoot people? It's your kids.
Any
Every lunatic will have a gun. Yeah, then he just shoot.
And so, is that okay then?
Well, no, the
Does that make
CIA,
it all right?
the CIA should be abolished.
And then,
Well, we've got us to try and
and then,
well, you don't have a centrally controlled government.
and if you've got a local
The
militia,
central government is the enemy of the army.
if you've got a local militia, for example, in the hills, in the
You live in America.
Woo!
respond to you. So, you've got the Blue Ridge Mountains, like a community there that says, okay, all the women will be enslaved, like, what's that TV show? Handmaid's Tale.
Big
There
Brother.
are some communities in America,
Big Brother.
and all black people in our town should be enslaved. We're going to pass a law on this basis in our local community. I'm going to enforce it with a submachine gun. Is that all right?
No, because
Is that
the
all right?
Constitution says all men are created equal. And had a civil war, which was the most bloodiest civil war. It's the bloodiest civil war. So therefore, in reality,
All men are equal.
and now black people are allowed to pay.
All men were created equal. Was there a colour bar in America 100 years after the Civil War? So all men are created equal. You can have a piece of paper saying you're all
Yes.
British, but if you put out a gun, bloody,
You talk about China as one and then you get rid of
All the others.
every time I start a sentence, you're attacking me. So it's trying to make
I'm going to say that, please.
you can't get a word in because you think
You need your own platform, mate.
just like you speak, but not while I'm speaking. All the time.
I'm wondering if the heck let him get his own ladder.
There you go. Yeah.
He does speak. He does speak. He does
No.
a good job as well.
Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him.
Sometimes get their passion.
Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him.
Here's Corbyn here, who's just come out of detention, I believe. Let's talk about that.
ده أخوه صح؟ ده أخو جيرمي كوربين صح؟
Just speak. Just speak.
So now we're done from here. We need to come to Shia. What the Shia people say, we need to figure it out.
Roasted again.
That's why God said, I am going to make you God unto Pharaoh. Psalms 82 said, we are gods, but created by the Most High God. We are man, but we will die. But we are God, created from the Most High God. So if you do something bad and you go to court, and the judge going to determine whether you go to prison